The Supreme Court strikes down New York's unconstitutional permit laws. Welcome to another installment of the Connecticut Gun Bench. Today's video is brought to you by P.A.N. Firearms, LLC. P.A.N. Firearms for NRA certification, multifaceted gun training, also offering aerial photography and drone services. You can reach us at 203-300-6343 or use our website at www.panfirearmsllc.com. As always, there'll be a link in the description box below, and we are going to talk about this. Now, as we know today, as of this video, the Supreme Court has basically struck down New York's permit laws, the laws that determine who can have a permit and who cannot. And the Supreme Court has said this is unconstitutional, it's too onerous and too restrictive. What initially brought me to this whole subject is I'm going to play this video for you. This is while the Supreme Court was in session about this issue and this case. And you're going to see our Attorney General, Tong. For those of us in Connecticut, we know who this guy is. He's been in government in Connecticut for decades. He has been anti-gun the entire time he's been in office. But because the Supreme Court was watching this case and, going through this, and he seemed very worried at what the outcome would be. Because you're going to hear speculation here that potentially the Supreme Court overturning New York's laws would then translate into Connecticut having to adjust its laws, which is nonsense. But you're going to hear that. I just want to play that because I thought that was interesting. So I'm going to play that for you. A couple minutes long.
Gets on both sides of the gun control debate, keeping a very close eye on the U.S. Supreme Court and the impending ruling that could result in more guns being carried throughout Connecticut. News 12 Connecticut's John Craven reports tonight.
Well, welcome to Blue Line Firearms.
If you're shopping for a handgun,
You fired this one? How was this one?
Rick Sprandl has plenty.
A lot of concealed, smaller firearms for concealed carry.
To carry that pistol, you'll need a permit.
So the town will issue a temporary pistol permit, and then you would go to the state.
But within days, the Supreme Court could overturn carry permits.
It could throw the entire regulatory structure out the window.
Connecticut's Attorney General says potentially gun owners could carry anywhere.
I don't think any reasonable person thinks it's smart or wise or safe to carry a firearm into a school.
Connecticut has some of the strictest pistol permit laws in the country, which also make them a big target.
Connecticut is a may issue state, meaning authorities can decide if you're suitable to carry a firearm. The Supreme Court case involves an even stricter law in New York. The plaintiffs want all carry laws struck down because the need for armed self-defense exists everywhere.
I think the idea that anybody can carry anytime they want to without a permit, which are the rules in Texas, I don't think you want that translated to 49 other states. Will be a lot more dangerous.
But Quinnipiac law professor Stephen Gillis says Connecticut's carry laws are probably safe.
Based on the oral argument, I think there's very little chance that the court would issue a ruling that's sweeping.
Back at Rick Sprandl's shop,
Yeah, a lot of 22s are finicky with ammunition. Well,
he says the current system works.
we're so used to how it is here, going through the process. It's a big responsibility, and we like responsible gun owners.
In Monroe, John Craven, News 12, Connecticut.
Okay, you saw that, you heard that. It's amazing to me when they say no reasonable person would think that it's okay to bring a gun into a school. Yet we have clear evidence of what happens when the only person in the school with a gun is a person there to commit the crime. Now they're making it sound like, well, if the average person goes into a school with a gun legally, if it were allowed to, if you were allowed to do so, all of a sudden that's going to create all kinds of problems. We've already seen the problems from the other end, where the only person with the gun is the person in there committing the crime and shooting people. But as we know now, the Supreme Court, like I said before, as of today, has struck down New York's carry permit issuing laws. And I want to play the video of that, because once again, it's all about context. We got to get everything we can and hear everything we can. So here is a video on that, and it's and now you're going to hear from the New York Police Commissioner, and of course, his little spin on things. But let's watch that.
Records obtained by CBS show as many as 20,000 guns could inundate the streets of New York following today's decision. And now a high-ranking NYPD source tells CBS2 it could take the city years to comply. CBS2 political reporter Marcia Kramer has been following it all. She joins us with a story you'll see only on CBS2. Marcia.
Well, Mary, the NYPD already has a 4-point plan to try to limit both the number of guns and the places it will be legal to bring them now that the Supreme Court has overturned our strict gun laws. On the other hand, more people may try to seek and get guns.
The NYPD has always been quite careful about who they give permission to carry guns, and that has really kept the number of people carrying guns lawfully way down.
Richard Aborn of the Citizens Crime Commission is right when he says the NYPD has been careful and some say admirably stingy when it comes to issuing gun permits that allow New Yorkers to carry concealed weapons on the streets of New York City. CBS2 has learned that at present only about 1,700 people have the right to carry a gun when they leave home. 1,400 more have carry licenses issued by other counties that need New York City endorsement to carry in the 5 boroughs. The big worry is the people who have been issued permits to have guns in their homes, which can also be used on a firing range. Conceivably, they could be turned into concealed carry permits because of the Supreme Court decision. CBS2 has learned that 16,462 city residents have so-called premise residence permits, 773 have premise business permits, and 2,403 have carry guard permits that can be carried while working but have to be left at the place of business at the end of the shift. John Miller, NYPD Deputy Commissioner for Intelligence and Counterterrorism, tells CBS2 in a memo that a ruling against New York does not mean that you wake up in the morning of the ruling and the premise permit magically turns into a carry. Depending on the ruling, it could take New York a year or 2 to implement, Miller says, especially if the court allows New York to limit the places a gun can be carried, so-called sensitive places.
So the question becomes, what constitutes a sensitive place? So I think there's some obvious ones. Places where large numbers of people gather, mass transit, the subway, stadiums, theaters, movie theaters, probably schools, probably houses of worship.
Is it going to be Miss Kitties on Gunsmoke? Check your guns at the door, Miller asks. The reality is that other states have gone to unrestricted carry licenses, have had a shared experience of people who can't bring them in certain places, leaving them in cars, and the guns being stolen in car break-ins. That just recycles legal guns into the hands of criminals.
There is a question about whether or not the city will be able to restrict people from locking guns in their car. That's important, because the thing we don't want to do is encourage an increase in car break-ins.
So now the NYPD and the mayor will have to figure out how to adjust their permit rules. Richard Aborn says another concern is whether relaxed permit rules spark a demand for new permits from people who now don't own a weapon. Meanwhile, Governor Hochul is expected to quickly call a special session of the legislature to deal with the ruling. Mary?
So much to go through right now. Thank you so much, Marcia, for that exclusive report.
Okay, here for, just for context, as always, as a Newsmax article, Supreme Court strikes New York gun law in major ruling. The Supreme Court in a 6-3 decision ruled Thursday that the Constitution provides a right to carry a gun outside the home. The ruling, a major victory for gun owners, came in a case involving a New York law requiring a concealed carry application to demonstrate a special need for the protection. You need a special need to, it has to be special to let them know why you need protecting outside of your home. But NBC News noted gun owners had filed suit maintaining the requirement made it nearly impossible to ordinary citizens to get the license. They claim that the law turned the Second Amendment into a limited privilege, not a constitutional right. In a statement on its website, the National Rifle Association applauded the High Court's decision. The National Rifle Association welcomes the Supreme Court's decision. The court affirmed that the right to bear arms does not stop at a person's front door. Well, it should be more, not so much the right to bear arms, but more the right to defend yourself. It does not stop at your front door. But this is the most significant Second Amendment ruling in more than a decade. Wayne LaPierre, the NRA's executive vice president, added today's ruling is a watershed win for good men and women all across America and is the result of a decades-long fight the NRA has led. The right to self-defense and to defend your family and loved ones should not end at your home. This ruling brings life-saving justice to law-abiding Americans who have lived under unconstitutional regimes all across our country, particularly in cities and states with revolving door criminal justice systems. New York is big on that one. No cash bail and increased harassment of law enforcement. New York's Democrat Governor Kathy Hochul blasted the court's decision, tweeting, "It is outrageous that a moment of national reckoning on gun violence, the Supreme Court has recklessly struck down a New York law that limits those who can carry concealed weapons," because that law is really working in New York, as you can see from day-to-day violence that goes on there. But she added another tweet, "In response to this ruling, we are closely reviewing our options, including calling a special session of the legislature. Just as we swiftly pass nation-leading gun reform legislation, I will continue to do everything in my power to keep New Yorkers safe from gun violence." Do I have to go there? Okay, she's not talking about criminals. She's once again talking about passing laws that only the law-abiding will follow, as if somehow that is going to curb gun violence. The Associated Press reported the High Court's decision is expected to ultimately permit more people to legally, note that word there, legally carry guns on the streets of major cities in the U.S., including New York, Los Angeles, and Boston. The AP said about a quarter of the U.S. population lives in states expected to be impacted by the ruling. As, of course, with the Supreme Court decision, the rhetoric has started, and boy, oh boy, the governor of New York, and of course, you just heard the police commissioner with his take on things, and of course, the mayor of New York, also Adams, has his little say in the matter. So I'm not going to play the whole thing for each one, but I want you to hear, of course, the hysteria that they're going to come up with. Yeah, let's watch that.
Justify the infringement. And most people would say, yes, we have a right to protect people from gun violence. But I'll simply say in our very quick analysis, because this is only minutes old, they have now said that the government must demonstrate that the regulation is consistent with this nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. That's it. No longer can we strike the balance. Only if a firearm regulation is consistent with this nation's historical tradition may a court conclude that the individual's conduct falls outside the Second Amendment's unqualified command. Shocking. Absolutely shocking.
It's so impactful. When I spoke with my chief counsel, based on his preliminary analysis, I said, give it to me on a scale of 1 to 10. It's very close to a 10 of a major concern that we have. While we're still analyzing the decision, we can say with certainty, this decision has made every single one of us less safe from gun violence. The decision ignores the shocking crisis of gun violence every day, engulfing not only New York, but engulfing our entire country. The opinion claims to be based on nation's historical past, but does not account for the reality of today. It ignores the present, and it endangers our future.
Okay, you saw that, you heard that. Now, immediately it's fear-mongering. Well, what if somebody, in states where they have open and unrestricted carry laws, people who can't take their gun into a certain place leave the gun in the car and the car gets stolen or broken into. We don't want to encourage people to break into cars. Well, you've already got that problem in New York. You have a massive problem in New York with, violent crime in general. Now, all of a sudden, loosening the restrictions on issuing of permits is going to create a bigger problem of people breaking into cars. You already got that problem. Just once again, it's all fear-mongering nonsense. Because the person who's going to take the time to go through the rigmarole and the process to get a permit to be able to carry is the person that you would want to have the permit and be able to carry. Because you got the criminals out there who aren't getting permits and they're damn sure carrying now. And they are concealed carrying. But here's the thing. Like I said, for those of you who've watched other videos of mine, I did a video on the New York, the Pistol Rifle Association lawsuit in the Supreme Court. And I'm telling you flat out now, like I said, when I was in the retail end of selling guns, I knew people who had New York carry permits. And let me be very clear, these people were either influential or had a whole lot of money. When I say a whole lot of money, I'm not talking about, a person that may have a decent business going. I'm talking people who are millions of dollars rich. Because one guy, I remember, he paid, he had to pay $5,000 to get a carry permit in New York. And he didn't even, what reason could he possibly give that another person, the average Joe, would give to be able to get that permit? But he had the $5,000 to spend. And because he was a person of wealth and influence, he got the permit. Just remember, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm pretty sure Chuck Schumer's got a full carry permit for New York. Okay? I've heard that many times over. So I think it's hypocritical that you have to have certain standards and a certain standing in society, and quite honestly, it's an elitist attitude. But anyone applying for a carry permit in New York, before this ruling, of course, you basically, if you weren't somebody of standing, you weren't getting it. It was incredibly rare for me to see the average person get a carry permit for New York, especially the 5 boroughs. The funny thing is, before this, if you had a 5-borough New York City carry permit, that was good for the whole state of New York. If you had a carry permit for New York, that did not cover the 5 boroughs. You had to take another step to get that endorsement to be able to carry in the 5 boroughs. So that's how restrictive it is. And it is restrictive. And these two, I applaud these guys for bringing this forward. And if you look at this image here, you can see all the people that brought this forward. And it's nice to see that our local CCDL, which is the Connecticut Citizens Defense League, was part of the amicus in this matter. But as far as, and I'm coming back to Connecticut for a second, as far as Connecticut's concerned, this law is not going to change very much for us. I have no problem with the permitting system as long as what happened during COVID doesn't happen again, where it became abusive, where people had to wait, anywhere from 9 to 12 months to get that permit. As long as that's not happening and these individual police departments are not abusing it by making people wait longer, I had no problem with the permitting system. Take a class, make sure you're an upstanding human being. Come on, guys, there's nothing wrong with that. Let's make sure we know who's getting guns and why. Not necessarily what kind of guns they're getting. That's where I draw the line. But we got to make sure whoever's getting them is a decent human being. I mean, that's reasonable. I think that's reasonable. But after that person has jumped through all the holes and hoops and everything else and paid all the fees, you can't tell them what they can have or how many rounds they can put in a magazine. Okay? They've already proven themselves to be good people, because the criminals aren't following this stuff. Need I beat a dead horse? Criminals don't follow the law. So New York State already had, and still has, a huge illegal gun problem. Now they're trying to claim that because the Supreme Court did this, now it's going to become even bigger. That more people are going to carry guns. Well, the people that are going to pay carrying guns, or the more people they're referring to, are the ones that are going to go through the process and pay whatever fees they want, and they will actually follow the rules. So once again, another positive win for the Second Amendment. And we'll see going forward what happens. But let me know what you think. As always, you can leave your comments in the comment section below. And as always, any statements of violence or statements that lead to violence will be removed. Please like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can get notified the next time a video goes live. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.